Okay, welcome everybody to another roundtable discussion, and this one is the women in business during and after COVID. It's best if I probably don't say too much at the moment, but the one small thing which I just thought was very interesting, which I noticed in the Times yesterday, was there was somebody who's appointed as the 6th CEO in the FT 100 companies. So it's still an incredibly small margin of representation for women in top businesses. But certainly from a male perspective, I do think COVID has really changed some of the dynamics of how women who are working during COVID with kids' responsibilities and certainly beyond, there's a lot of interesting dynamics going on. So I think Rachel will be leading this group. I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. So I will now hand this over to Rachel. Enjoy the conversation and thank you for the chat. We're looking forward to it. Thank you. Rachel.
Right, this is designed literally to be very informal. It's a discussion. It's not me sort of spouting out a lecture or anything like that. And we'll go with the flow on where the issues are and what can be discussed. But I thought it might be better, as per my email yesterday, if we just go around everybody to say who you are, what your business is, where you are in terms of the hierarchy of that business, and how COVID has impacted on you sort of positively or negatively. I don't know, do you want me to go first whilst it's me? Yeah. So I'm Rachel Stewart. So I'm a partner in Russell Cook Solicitors. We're a sort of top 100 legal firm. In fact, we're number 81, I think, at the moment, which is jolly exciting. There's 500 odd of us that all are sort of specialists and have our own different areas. We have 3 locations, one in Putney, which is our flagship, and one in the Chancery, and one in Kingston, which is where I'm located. I specialise in property, so as you can imagine, that has been severely impacted due to the lockdown and COVID. So the last I say 4 months has been pretty much probably the worst of my career, if I'm honest. I've got 2 children, one who's age 9 and a little girl who's age 7 going on 18. So they've not been eligible to go back to school. So I have been, I can't actually remember a day that I've done less than 13 hours to keep up with everything. So I would say that has both been a positive and negative impact on what I do. It's been nice to be able to not do the walk at shame of at 4 o'clock to go and get the kids. But it's also meant I've been doing 5 a.m. in the morning and working till 8, 9 o'clock at night because the IT is now there that we can do that. So yeah, very interesting. It's I could do with this lockdown finishing now, and especially this afternoon. It sounds like the stamp duty change rules are going to change this afternoon, so there could be a floodgate of new work coming through, which is great. But it's you know, it's going to be very difficult still with the summer holidays still to go with the children. So yeah, interesting times. Who would like to go next? Elise, you're Elise, is it? You're next on. Elise, nice to meet you.
And you too. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. Yeah, my name's Elise Salis. I work for a technology company called Walters Kluwer. I specifically work for the tax and accounting division here in the UK, and we are based in Kingston on the London Road. We create software for accountants. And what we're all about is really making sure that accountants can work in the most efficient way possible and support and service their end clients. So with my role as communications and culture, which is as a broad brief, but never more important than at this time, because of course we're all about communicating to our people, but making sure that that's very much a two-way communication, making sure we're answering their questions and their queries at this time. But also from a culture perspective, it's really important to me to think about how people are coping. I also have a 7-year-old going on 18, Rachel. She's growing up far too fast. And I'm a single parent. And so I've realized that I am A, very busy, and B, not a teacher. But having to balance that is challenging. And so what I've been trying to do is put myself in the position of people like me within our organisation. But perhaps, for those without children, perhaps they're caring for an elderly relative. Perhaps they've got their own health challenges to deal with. So I think what's been really important for us is thinking about, yes, maintaining as much of the business norms as possible, but actually looking after our people, putting mechanisms in place to keep people collaborating and just talking, just being good corporate citizens, and reaching out to others around the organisation. But also, a really important side for me is the mental health awareness side of things. Our company charity in the UK is Mind. So mental health awareness is very, very important to all of us. And we've been providing a lot of guidance to our people around that, wellness, general health and well-being, and then the fun side of things, sharing recipes, sharing things to keep the kids occupied. So yeah, there's been highs and lows around recent months, but yeah, we're keeping busy. That's for sure.
So I think I'll follow up after you, Elise. Are you actually in the office or are you at home at the moment?
I'm at home. Yeah, we're all working from home.
Okay, I was going to say, because so I'm from IQ and IT, I'm the managing director, and we are literally, I can see your building from my
You're next door. You're pretty much next door, aren't you?
Yeah, so we actually work with you guys because we support a lot of accountancy firms as well. And we've actually gone out with some of your techie people out to a pub. So we know you very well, and we speak to you quite often. So yeah, it's nice to see you and meet you.
And you.
So yeah, as I said, we are based on London Road as well, right behind the school, which currently has a construction going on. We haven't really been in our office since about a week before the actual lockdown. I have come down with potentially COVID then, so I have taken the decision to turn everyone and keep them all home, because the risk of everyone being infected at the same time would have a massive impact on our company. We have been extremely busy, so the impact of it was having to work through feeling really rough and having temperature and coughing, but we were having to make sure that everyone can work from home. And actually our meeting room table, which if you could see the other side, actually has our clients' equipment here because they didn't have good enough connection to support everyone working from home. So it was fine for one or two people working from home occasionally, but those are sort of some of the steps we've taken to help our clients out and support them throughout this crisis. And to say that we've started actually in about mid-February preparing for the lockdown, where many people weren't taking it seriously, that this is actually going to happen in UK as well. And I think we have sort of a new era coming on, and I see that there is a lot of positive in it in terms of our communication within our company has improved with using the technology, as we weren't so good meeting in person to attend a meeting because someone would have to step out of a meeting room to grab a phone call. Actually, it's just as simple as someone mutes themselves out, still part of the meeting, and then comes back. So it's actually been very helpful, and also turning a lot of our clients into being more engaged with the technology, as it's I feel should have been for a lot more years before this has happened. So I see this as there is a lot of positive. Obviously, there are some negatives, and having to do a lot of adjustments, but I think on the other side we'll become stronger businesses, and we'll be a lot more adaptable, and hopefully have a better work-life balance, because I am quite enjoying not having to be in the office every day and spending more time with my doggy and spending some time with my 18-year-old niece who has just turned 18 in May, so didn't really have a celebration as she would like for her 18th birthday.
Oh.
Shall I follow up next? Hi, everyone. My name's Alex Hughes, and I live and work locally in Kingston upon Thames. I run a business called Auxilium Admin. I'm a virtual business manager, and I help CEOs and business owners navigate the choppy waters of admin and all their procedures and projects that they'd like to outsource to a safe pair of hands. I cover anything from AI, finance to wellbeing, manufacturing, coaches, speakers. My company's 3 years old, and lockdown, it's been a roller coaster ride, shall we say. I've managed to grip my seat, have a fast and furious ride with highs and lows, and I think I'm just about coming back down to earth as we speak. Personally, I lost my father during this time, so I spent an awful lot of time juggling with family and supporting him in a care home, and they did a grand job. And even if your children are older, as mine are, aged 25 and 22, they do bounce back home, which they did. So that I had 5 in the house all of a sudden eating me out of house and home. I've been really busy during this time. The way I work remotely has meant that I've been able to support existing and new clients, and ones that have come back to me because I was set up in the way that meant that I was able to seamlessly integrate with them and their business and help them going forwards. It has been a busy time, and I've learned lots of things and done lots of new things in my business, which I'm going to take forward. And I think there's various words that have come up many times. I think it's juggle, issues with childcare, solutions we need to find. We need to be more flexible going forward and look after ourselves with our health and well-being. So I think with some of these subjects we might touch on later, but that's me for now.
Hi,
Frankie,
shall I dive in? Yeah.
You go, Frankie.
So I'm Frankie Kearns, and I am co-founder of the Park Brewery, Kingston's only microbrewery, and it was set up by myself and my husband in 2014 in our kitchen, in a family kitchen, and the hobby got completely out of control and took over our lives. And now we've got a unit just behind the Cambridge estate on Hampden Road, so KT1. And yeah, we live and work in Kingston. We also have 2 boys, aged 11 and 12. And yes, homeschooling and running a business. I don't really know what to say about it, but it has been definitely a juggle. I would agree with that word, Alex, and full on. But, and you know, we've all had a full on time, and there have definitely been some positives. I have enjoyed being with the boys and kind of seeing how the learning side of it. I've also been doing the very early mornings to cram in as much work, work my own work as soon as I can and get as much done while it's peace and quiet in the house. And then the late nights as well. So I relate to that. But we have managed to have some real positives. We didn't have any way of getting our beer out via any sort of e-commerce site or anything, which we managed to do that and get that set up really super fast. So essentially when all the pubs closed and all of our sales avenues closed, we were able to quickly sort of change gear and move over to home deliveries, which is what's been going on frantically now for however many months it is. And that is just me and my husband and occasionally a child in the car, and my nephew who has come to the rescue. He had his year off cut short. He was in just starting his trip of a lifetime in Mexico and was radically recalled by his parents, and found himself running around in his little car delivering beer for us, bless him. So yes, challenges, ups and downs, some really good stuff, but yes, looking forward to some sort of normality one day. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Nikki Brown. I'm a caterer, and I also run children's workshops and a series of cookery clubs in Wimbledon, primarily. And obviously that all got shut down completely with the whole COVID thing. Schools shut, nobody's allowed to get together to have any catering events. I've lost 3 or 4 weddings that were supposed to take part this summer going into autumn. So for me, it was a complete and utter shutdown of my entire business and my entire source of income. So, I mean, I sort of sat for a few days, drank quite a lot of gin, And then made a new plan. A couple of friends said to me, look, because I also make cakes, you know, celebration cakes, and they said, can you send us something in the post? And I sort of sat there for a bit and thought, well, let's come up with something. So we created with my daughters this letterbox bites, which is essentially just a small pizza box, basically, with 9 pieces of chocolate brownie, Rocky Road, chocolate crunchies, all in a little box that can be posted first class to people that you can't see, people you want to say thank you to, people you miss. And that took off. That took off really well. And I was doing sort of between 100 and 170 orders a week for about 2 months. And so I was really proud of the fact that we managed to sort of diversify a little bit. We added in there like a lemon drizzle cake. And it's done really well. It's obviously now tailing off quite a lot. I mean, markedly so, down to about between 10 and 20 orders a week, just simply because people are able to get out and about again and start seeing people. So I now found myself in a position where I'm having to think again and try and reinvent it, because as of yesterday, none of the cookery clubs are like my bread and butter, because they're a guaranteed income every term. And the catering is obviously a word of mouth thing. So you can never actually balance or sort of timetable when those events are going to come in. Obviously, there aren't going to be any of those. And as of yesterday, they're not running any wraparound care or clubs, after school clubs, until January, I found out yesterday. So, you know, my heart goes out to all the parents. I mean, my daughters are 21 and 22, so that doesn't apply to me. But obviously, a lot of my clients and a lot of the kids that I work with, I can't imagine in lockdown what it must be like to be able to have to cope with what you're doing, you know, working and getting through everything you have to do in a day, as well as teaching the kids, and then also keeping them occupied in things that they used to have given to them after school anyway. So, you know, I do feel like a little bit of an imposter here, because you're all sort of really businessy, and I feel like I'm just sort of there trying to keep up in the background. But it's
no. I mean, this was a whole point. It wasn't supposed to be sort of child orientated. This is more about, you know, how COVID has impacted on women. And it was very much, you know, why are women not at the top end of industry? Why are women not, you know, prolonging businesses? And, you know, is it to do with children? Is it to do with COVID? Is it to do with, I don't know, dynamics? And it needs to be sort of everybody with a different sort of field and a different view on business, to try and sort of work out what can chambers do to sort of help promote women in industry.
Yeah, I think what will be really interesting will be to see who copes better with having to work from home with all the things that you have to balance and juggle, the men or the women, particularly in the environments that we're in at the moment. Because, well, yes, but in terms of coming out the other side and then being able to, because I know a friend of mine whose husband's working at home. He loves working at home, and because he's obviously being able to be part of his child who's only 9 months old, but it's driving her mad, you know, and she's like, no, it's really nice to see you and I'm glad you can be part of it, but you know, it's enough now. Go back to the office. So it's I don't know, I think it's a big thing working from home. I think a lot more businesses will actually base their people at home as well.
Yeah, my husband actually was in China and has been for the last year, and he obviously got evacuated end of January. So we've had a situation where, you know, Dad didn't live with us for quite a while, to basically being at home for, you know, 24/7. But I think he's going to probably go back September, October, depending on the flight. So at least I completely sympathise with your situation. I am dreading the point where, you know, if schools do not open in September, what the hell do we do? It's
I think involving the kids, because I think there is a huge disconnect between kids not really being involved with parents' work. And I remember as a kid, I used to go to my dad's work, and I would meet his colleagues. He would take me around, show me all the mechanics and everything and how everything works. But it doesn't seem to work. It doesn't seem to happen as much anymore. So I think that's actually a really good opportunity for the children to get more involved.
There has been quite a few funny occasions with Zoom meetings where obviously you're very involved with the client, and all of a sudden your 7-year-old daughter runs past saying, "Mummy, could I have a My Little Pony?" And actually, that I thought that was going to be almost, clients were going to be quite cross about it. Well, actually, we just all burst out laughing, and the empathy from people now is that much more different. There's a lot more understanding and realization. So I hope that is going to not change going forward when we ever do go back to some kind of normality, because I think that has been a positive thing. Appreciating people do have families, whether they're 2 years old or 22 years old. Everybody has had a need with their mental well-being. Some days I felt very cross and cheated. Other days I thought, actually, this is a good thing. I'm with the children. We built a bar in the back garden. It's been a roller coaster, I think, isn't it? Really, and for everybody.
I think that's a really interesting point.
Go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, I think that's a really interesting point that you made about the attitudes to the different working environment, with the children in the background potentially. Right from the start, we want to see the children. If they're in the room, don't hide them away, don't shush them, don't tell them to be quiet, get them involved and bring them in. And actually our community, which looks after our culture ambassadors, they've launched a range of activities, tend to be over lunch times or towards the end of the day, things like quizzes where the kids can actually sit on your knee or next to you and get involved and do a quiz. We run Thursday bingo. I mean, that's the real softer side of things. There's some really important business changes that we've made as well, which are hugely significant. But in terms of just embracing the fact that this really is such a different environment, I mean, it's unprecedented in terms of the way we're all working now. So, absolutely not to sweep that under the carpet. People have families, people have outside lives. And actually, I think we've all learned a lot more about one another, which is great from a human touch perspective. It's been really, really positive.
There's a lot more empathy, I think, as you said, Rachel, a lot more empathy and a lot more kindness in business, I've noticed from people. I hope that doesn't
change. That's my one. I think that is a facet to women being successful in industry. There has to be a level of understanding, a level of flexibility.
Definitely.
I think it's really important for the children to be part of the Zoom and come and say hello and include them, because then they know what you're doing, and it's been lovely to sort of say hi to them and talk to them. And some children have even set up businesses in this time. I think Jo's even commented in the chat here, one of her sons has set up a business, and to have them be part of that is really, really important. We've got some great comments here talking about, which is what I was going to lead on to, how women are feeling sort of falling behind with their male colleagues in terms of pay and respect and all the rest of it, because obviously in these times you naturally gravitate towards your mum for something, and therefore they're always being disrupted. And I think it'd be interesting to explore what we all think about maybe women falling behind their male colleagues in these times, because they've had to sort of pivot and juggle and be the ones that naturally children go towards. There's been quite a few comments here.
I think it's potentially come from, sorry. I think it potentially starts at home, where it should really be a shared responsibility to look after children. Obviously, I don't have any of my own, but I've looked after my nieces and nephews. But I don't feel that it should always be the women's. Obviously, children have a tighter connection with their mothers. But if the dads get more involved, and obviously they had a lot of opportunities to do so during the pandemic, is keeping that positivity of, they had more time to spend with their children, and obviously not making that, I'm the man and I have to do the work, where, both parents need to do the work and share the responsibilities in engaging with the children.
I think where Kat, I think where it is a joint, because that's effectively what my husband and I do. That again, there's got to be a realization that I think where you've got one breadwinner, as it were, a horrible word, they can go all out. Where two of you are doing both jobs, each of you have got to take concessions. You both can't go all out. So sometimes in your situation, you've got to realize or make the decision. For the family, it might be just better if one went for it. It just depends on people's circumstances. I say we're trying to be 50-50, but obviously with Aaron being in China, we're not. But it's very difficult. And, you know, I fully accept, I think men have got to step up with the childcare a bit more. But it's just not made easy. And I think this week we've started Russell Cook now, sort of a parents forum, to basically start coming up with ideas as to what initiatives can happen to be able to help both female and males in being working parents. You know, and it's very, very difficult because client service cannot be reduced because of that. You know, your business have got to flourish. You've got to give it full throttle.
I think we as a society need to improve our life-work balance, because I think the standard of 9 to 5, mostly more, is, I don't feel acceptable anymore. So if we work less hours and less days, so I think a 4-day week should really become a standard, especially now that we're going to have a lot of unemployed people. It will mean that more people can be employed, working shorter hours and spending more time, and making that more possible for the balance to be between the male and female to look after the children.
Playing devil's advocate, though, will it impact on businesses though? 4 days, you're not getting the most cost-effective outcome from your staff. Then just putting it out there. I'm not saying I agree with it.
Yeah, but I think if we don't sort of start heading towards that change, we're going to have the problem of having sort of fewer people employed, but a lot of people unemployed. And obviously, as they're unemployed, they're losing the skills and the ability to actually get a job. So obviously, it's not something a one person can change, but this is something we need to start discussing and obviously getting our politicians to realize that, this is something which needs to change, especially with a lot of automation and stuff coming through. There was also a reduction of certain jobs in the industry.
So there also another sort of comment on our school playground. There are so many accountants, doctors, all sorts of high level career ladies who have given up or taken a career break to have children, and their comments are, like you say, they need to still fit in with the school day or to have flexible working hours. And it's amazing how, they're all applying for jobs and there just isn't the job availability out there. I mean, even like at M&S, I think you've got to do a 12-hour working day to be able to get a job there. I mean, it's just, I agree with you. It's got to change.
And Nicole's just
I think employers need to be more flexible and take that into account. So breaking up the day, maybe having like a morning sessions and afternoon sessions where people can work around. Obviously, it needs to work out with like customer service. So for me, it's quite difficult because we have to cover the phones and do this. But I do let my team to take sort of either mornings or afternoons or juggle things around to fit other things in the day. But I think it comes from sort of each employer, and obviously SMEs being the sort of biggest employer. I feel that we have to sort of step up to be even more flexible. And obviously working from home, I think it's just going to be here to stay. And personally, I'm not asking anyone to come into the office till at least end of the year, unless they feel like they want to get some peace and quiet and sort of come into the office. But it's all completely up to them. I feel that we are actually a lot more productive working from home, and obviously not losing the time on travel, and that leading into being more green and sustainable, which I think should be also the key of going out of this crisis is making sure that we don't go back to what we were before.
It's really interesting, Katerina, and I think somebody earlier used the word flexibility. I mean, we are a global organisation, but we have a number of people based in Kingston as part of our UK business. We've always been, by our very nature, remote, because our people in the UK are based across UK and Ireland. So a lot of these things that people are perhaps using for the first time, tools and technologies, we're quite lucky in a way, because we've been using those for a while. But I think what it has forced us to do is to think about some of the stereotypical things that you perhaps take for granted. I mean, we all probably are guilty of putting 30-minute windows in diaries for meetings, or 60-minute windows. Now, actually, if we just cut that down to 20 minutes or 50 minutes, we all get a little bit of time back. And you know how we're all running from meeting to meeting. And at the moment, that screen time is phenomenal. So just getting those few minutes of respite to check in on the children, or, you know, make a cup of tea, or yeah, exactly. It's just taking a little bit of control back and managing to get just that bit of time, and rather than just going with the norms. You know, do you really need to be in that meeting? Are you an essential participant? Or actually, can you be brave and turn around and say, I'm not going to join. You don't need me. I'm not essential. So I think there's an element of freedom and flexibility. I'm very lucky. I work in that environment. And I think employers have a responsibility to put that degree of trust in their people. We're all grown-ups. We will make good decisions. And hopefully we all hire people who are smart and intelligent and loyal. So I think there's a little bit here where, you know, we take a bit of control ourselves and make those quite small decisions on the face of it, but they can make a big difference.
In a way as well, I think for ladies, there's an element that you've always got to prove yourself. So we're quite lucky in the sense that we have time recording, and certainly if you've not met your daily time recording at the moment, there is a conversation about it. So you can quite quickly identify who's doing a lot of work, and obviously everybody's got a target level. If they made it, great. If they're not, again, there's another conversation about it. But I just wonder whether other businesses, how do you assess your staff to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, or if you feel they're doing far too much, how do you assess that yourselves?
So that's something we obviously have time recording and all of that in place as well, but we've seen it across our clients or approaching us, some with thinking perhaps they're working too much, and some thinking, well, perhaps they're all not working enough. So there's various different sort of reporting and stuff we've put in place. And, you know, sometimes it is, yeah, they just enjoying working flexibly. So they will do sort of an early morning, and then they'll take a few hours out. And when we look at those sort of reports, we put a sort of bit of peace of mind into our sort of clients' mind, that the people are working, but a lot of them are doing sort of naturally wanting to take the few hours during the day, because if it's a sunny day, who wants to sit in front of a computer? So I tend to go out and throw the ball for my dog, which she now got so used to that, you know, it's now a habit of several times a day I go and kick the ball. And it's quite nice to take a little break. And I feel that it makes people more productive than just being glued to the screen. And if there is the ability of being flexible and having the ability to do the work outside the sort of normal 9 to 5, then, you know, it's most of the time not a problem.
Alex, how many have you got working for you?
Oh,
Alex.
It's just me. But I just work for myself. But I was just about to say that I think it's a top-down approach, and I think business owners need to reassess lots of things within their business, and everybody's business is different. So some things will work in some businesses and not in others. And I think they need to assess working patterns, what works, what doesn't work, combine working from home in a flexible manner, because we know it works, but everyone needs to get back into the office. You know, sharing space, looking at the services you provide. Are they still the services that you're going to go ahead and continue continue with, and all that sort of thing. I think it's really important, and that business leaders need to basically not have a blanket approach, because I don't think the blanket approach to this going forward is going to be the same. Yes, you need some blanket approaches, but I think they need to be flexibly merged together, so that different industries can work in different ways and more effectively.
Frankie, have you got any comments on that?
I mean, we've got one employee really. He's our brewer at the moment, and just in terms of, you know, his time, I mean, it's just trust really. Back to that word, isn't it? Just making sure he pretty much runs his own ship. His hours are quite odd because it's just the way our business is. So he just has to kind of get on with it. And essentially, when you're sort of brewing beer, you start at a certain time. If you want to start later, then you're going to finish later. It's all, you know, it's quite flexible. I mean, he's definitely got flexible hours. So. And obviously there's my husband, so I keep track on him. But I've just kind of lost my way a bit here. Is that what we're talking about? Flexibility.
Yeah, I was going to add to what I said, that I think it's also really important to look at what constitutes a fair share, because when we're all working flexibly, is everybody working in the same manner? And some people won't and some people will. And I think there'll be issues around, you know, how people are working flexibly, and is it you know, shared equally amongst all your staff, so that one person
and also
think they're doing more than another.
I was just going to say about that sort of working smart as well. You know, that I find that those 6 a.m. starts that I'm getting when I do 2 hours before the rest of the house is stirred, so much gets done. It's almost like a full working day, because you're just...
It's nice in summer though, isn't it, Frankie? Winter's going to be a different kettle of fish.
That's very, very true. Yeah, but it's
I mean, again, I think that's a positive thing of Lady is that it's identifying there is flexibility, but it's also communicating to your staff and your colleagues that, okay, really, I'm not going to do very much today because of X, Y, and Z. However, I'm going to absolutely blast it out on Saturday where the kids are, you know, playing football with their dad or whatever. And it's that sort of appreciation that it can't go on like, you know, 9 to 5 anymore. And there's, you just got to communicate, I think, what's going on and stay in touch. And I think women are very good at that.
Definitely.
I think
we got at the end of the day. You can't.
Sorry, go on, Alex. You go.
Sorry, everyone's talking to... No, and I'm just saying, you know, what comes out of all of this is our health for everybody. You know, we're all working smarter, faster, harder, and as a consequence, you know, all I hear about is people feeling tired. I've never worked so hard in my life, all that sort of thing. And you know, there will be knock-on effects long term for people's health, and I think that's something else that business owners need to consider. You know, in these new flexible ways of working, that how we take time out to look after our health, and, you know, incorporate those yoga sessions or a walk at lunchtime or whatever you can do, you know, when you do go back to
or
the
a pint of beer, Frankie.
Yes, always.
Yeah, I think
I saw you. I was very excited. I thought, oh, maybe we could have a little tasting at one day when we ever meet up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm only street away from you, really.
Yes, you're very.
I think your brewery is over that way. So
take your own bath cat.
Well, when this is over at the tap room, we'll have a little. We'll have a proper round table. A live one.
Martha's brought in a point about saying, you know, we need to consider those, you know, who are out of work, because, you know, especially the women as well, in that situation where they might have had to have stopped working or have lost their job, and how you bring those back in to the family life, and how we bring those people and men, of course, back into working environments. And also the furloughed people, particularly I worry about my daughter who's been furloughed for 4 months, and exactly how she's going to come back into the world of working after 4 months of not being involved in the company at all. You know, and so I think it's going to take a long time for those people to get back into the working market.
So I saw there was an article, wasn't there, on the BBC website where it said Kingston was the second worst impacted conurbation. But it's probably going to be one of the first to get back to some kind of normality. It's whilst it's hit hard, it's very robust, it's very flexible, But as you say, I think the next 6 months are going to be extremely important for our area. And, you know, hopefully with politicians need to make some quite big decisions, don't they, to help people. You know, investments need to be made and whatnot.
Mm. Yeah, and it will be so interesting to hear you.
Well, is it? Sorry, go on.
Release.
I was just going to say very quickly, it'd be really interesting to see what happens with the young women coming out of universities and colleges at this time, because, you know, that's been a very odd experience for them, for everyone across the board. But I'm just conscious that, you know, a big element of going into your first role or getting that dream job or starting to work your way into the career that you aspire to have is not only your aptitude academically, it's also confidence and the way in which, you know, you go and interact in your interviews and so on and so forth. And it's got to hit pretty hard, I would imagine, in terms of just everything having pressed pause effectively for such a long time. It's going to have a real impact for those coming through.
My daughter was
so
in
again,
that
statistics where something like eBay and Amazon were all set up when there were huge recessions. So now, you know, to get the word out there, now is the best time for setups because you've got nothing to lose. It's you know, you start with nothing, so there's only one way. So yeah, it's about getting the word, isn't it, to women out there? Give it a go. There is support there.
But
Nikki, that's probably quite close to your heart. Oh, sorry, Alex, sorry.
It is. It is in terms of sort of starting and finding a way through it. I mean, my younger daughter's graduating or supposed to be graduating from uni. And obviously that's all been cancelled. So for these, like you say, these young women and these youngsters that are coming out of university, they don't have sort of like a finish. They've just, the last few months of their education was all done online. Their graduation ceremony and the reward and the congratulations and the confidence building to send them out into the world is not there. So they've just kind of given in their work online. They get their results back sometime in July, and then that's it. They're just left to their own devices. And I think that for them, you know, mentally, going back to that whole comment about mental health and work, it is really important to give them the support, because it's all very well to say, you know, there are a lot of women, a lot of people who can go out and think, this is what I want to do. And there's the resources online to try and set something up. There's also a lot of people who need that support and need that little bit of help to find a pathway and to find the resources. Are you saying that there could be some kind of there could be some kind of support group from, say, the Chambers group, where there is sort of 4 and 4, you know, graduates, men and women, I'm talking about, where there is a little bit of, you know, come on, you can do it. There's nothing to stop you. And, you know, look at all the contacts and personnel within the group. But my goodness, there's so much talent in there to be able to support these people. And it's just, I think, just as you say, the encouragement and the knowledge that there are people out there to help. Yeah, almost like a big brother or big sister, sort of like mentorship, even if it's online, you know, for them to say, this is what I want to do, but I have no idea where to start. Because, you know, everything used to be face to face. Everything used to be sort of, you know, prepping for an interview, learning your interview styles. They're not going to have that now, because nobody can meet face to face. It's an entirely different way of working, of learning, of introducing yourself. And I just think it's something that we all need to think about in terms of supporting these young people who are coming into a whole new work environment that's not only new to us, but new to them too.
Yeah, maybe the chamber can try and facilitate this within the members to help their sort of family and extended family to get in contact. Because one of the things we do a lot is do work experience and sort of get apprentices and young people in to give them that experience. Obviously, that's going to be very different now, and I'm trying to figure out of how can we do it. To still be able to support the young people and help them decide what career they want to go into. but obviously doing it virtually. So perhaps we could do it with even more people virtually, but then they don't get the sort of hands-on experience, which I think in the IT sector is especially important, to be able to take a computer apart or do the sort of basic things to understand all the things behind it. But I think it's a good idea, and perhaps we could have a chat with Forbes to see, if we set up some kind of a group where people can.
Well, it's Forbes and Martha, isn't it?
Get paired up with someone within the business.
Yeah, Martha's saying that there's an opportunity to find interns. And Martha's just commenting in there saying that it's an opportunity to find interns, some of them fully funded through university. So I think there's lots of opportunities with Kingston University. I was just going to comment, just moving on for a couple of conversations ago, that my daughter was furloughed and it's highly likely she'll be losing her job. She spent 4 years studying for a very specialist degree in swimwear design. And now she's sort of very, very disheartened about the industry and where she's going to go next and what she's going to do. And so we're encouraging her to perhaps look at somewhere like Kingston University, where she can perhaps do some sort of further education, a master's or something, and slightly pivot into the next generation within design to see if she can sort of enhance her skills, because at the moment retail sector is not happening, and she's really
Has she not set up by herself?
I was just about to say the same thing. She should set up her own design line.
Yeah, well, that is also a consideration of hers. That we did set up a business a couple of years ago, but she needs a lot of support and a lot of funding and what have you, and it's not easy to set up in that world on your own, but we're definitely looking at that at the moment. But for her it was like, wow, have I wasted my 4 years, and I had a job and now I haven't got a job, so it's been really difficult to sort of keep her buoyant at these times.
Tough. Yeah, I've been with one of my clients who's in this industry, and they work with sort of ASOS, Next, and other big brands. And they sort of said that some of them have sort of completely dropped off, but some of them are still going. So I think it's sort of looking at which ones are still going, and they are expecting them to sort of bounce back in a few months' time, because there will be the need for having a swimwear or having other clothing items. It's just that because of the shutting down the factories, they have sort of stopped getting new things in, but they haven't gone out of business. They still going, although they furloughed a lot of their staff. They are sort of trying to bring them all back and not lose too many of them. Obviously, it's always the sort of threats that some people will lose a job, but there are still opportunities, and perhaps I could have a chat with you later about it.
That'd be great. Thank you.
If I could put in touch with someone.
I think
it's about their mental health and their stability in this time to keep them motivated and keep them driving forwards to move on and not become stagnant in these times, which is very easy to do when it's not your fault. This current situation, nobody's fault, and lots of people are in the same situation, but we've got to try and support the youngsters, be it the ones at school, be it the ones going into sixth form, be it the ones just who thought they were going to go off to university and now it's all changed, and the ones that have come out and started jobs. That section of that age group is vital, so that we don't lose them and we don't lose the momentum with where their future is going, because at the moment it's all a bit sort of unknown for them.
I think where companies are able, it's so important that they give back. We're hoping to launch, we're obviously a technology company. We're all about creating innovative software for our customers. And what we're hoping to do is to launch something which hopefully would involve Kingston University, but also entrepreneurs, startups, and bringing people together. I mean, almost like an innovation hub, if you like, to come up with ideas, and people would benefit from mentoring relationships, get additional expertise that would broaden their skill sets to take them into future roles and career paths. So that's something we're hoping to do, because we feel it's really important to give back to our community. We might be a global business, but our local community is very much Kingston, and we want to tap into the chamber, we want to tap into the university, and really try and give something back and get some really meaningful relationships going there.
Am I right in thinking that statistically the amount of women who do startups is very low, isn't it, by comparison? Yes. I mean, it's tiny. So it'd be brilliant to see that encouraged more. And now probably, as you say, is the time to do it.
I suppose he's trying to work out why that's happening. Is it because the families?
I think that's,
is it like a?
I think a lot of it will be a confidence. So I think lacking the confidence and thought. So having a group to sort of support the young, especially females coming out. So my 18-year-old niece, she doesn't want to go back to college. She wants to do apprenticeship, but doesn't quite understand what she wants to do. And it's really hard to sort of get her to go into a business to understand what the industry is about, because there isn't many which would do so at the moment. So having some kind of this and get someone within the chamber who she could have a chat with and understand what it's about would be, I think, really helpful for her. And I feel that, it will be very helpful for lots of others, no matter if they sort of coming out of college or university, they all sort of need someone to sort of help them out. So I think, definitely having a chat with Forbes and Martha and see if we could put something together and put them in touch.
Definitely.
I think we're coming to the end, aren't we? I've forgotten. We're 12:46. So I think we've got two more minutes.
There's a question here.
If anybody wants to make any more comments.
At the moment, Francesca said, mental health is a huge concern at the moment. Many of my business networks are struggling to motivate themselves from working from home or struggling to juggle home-work balance. Have you got any good advice and or services they can use to help?
Well, for me, it's flexibility. Is it's okay to work at 5 a.m. It's okay to work at 10 p.m. But take the break in the middle of the day, and do it in bite-sized chunks. Don't think of the long term. Day by day, set out your goals for that day and just achieve them. Whenever you can. Would be my
so it's a question because it's so different now. Because the working the way we work is so different now. I think it's really important to not look at it as if I'm supposed to start work at 9 o'clock, but I can't because I've got to do this, and I'm supposed to be finished by 5. Now it's different. So if your working day is completely different timings, or if you're, don't go into the day thinking this is how I've got to do it because that's how it was always done. I think if you have to rearrange your entire day and rearrange your entire head to fit around it, it's not a problem. As long as you ultimately come out with having achieved what you want to at the end of the day, how you approach it and how it's achieved is what works for you, as opposed to how it always used to be done in the normal way, which isn't normal anymore.
I think you've also got to identify during the day that you do need breaks, and if something is getting on top of you, you put your laptop down. I've been known to walk the streets of Claygate like an absolute lunatic just to half an hour of just silence, or going through the woods and whatnot. I think that working day in the office in the city, that it's hard doing that. So again, I think that's a positive thing, that you're now able to do that, and just calm it down, and it's bite size.
I think it's also okay not to be okay sometimes. I think sometimes some days you're going to achieve lots and it's going to be fantastic. And other days you're not going to achieve very much and think, wow, what happened today? And also everybody's journey during this time and going forwards is going to be at a different pace and at a different stage. And that's okay as well. We mustn't compare ourselves to anybody else. Everybody's situation is different, and therefore just celebrate your wins. As Rachel, if she's listening, she'd say celebrate your wins. So even if they're tiny, celebrate that you've actually achieved that today, and then move on to the next day. If we keep beating ourselves up each day, we're not going to get anywhere, are we? So I think
the key is to work out what works for you and go for it.
Yeah.
And in terms of resources, I mean, I don't know what you ladies have been using in your organisations, but we've shared some really great content from Mind, which is our charity that I mentioned earlier. Really good content on the Mind website. We've also looked a lot at TED Talks, all freely available online. LinkedIn Learning is another tool that we've been using to help people around everything from time management to mindfulness. There's all sorts of good content out there that's freely available. We've been sharing that with our employees, but obviously, you know, anybody on this discussion, I'm sure would benefit from that too. So there's really good stuff out there.
Yeah, definitely. We have put in private insurance sort of October last year, which was quite good, and we have also the sort of that side covered, and we've been also given some online tools to use to help the mind and sort of get through these sort of times. So I think it's helpful, but we've also been doing sort of our normal Friday evenings where we used to sort of hang out in our office, have a takeaway, play some games. So we do that online now. And I think it's important to keep engaged with the team outside the working hours as well, and do something fun, rather than sort of it just being completely separate. And of end of the day, everybody just is at home already, so they just go and do their own thing. So it's important to sort of stay in touch and not only discuss the work side, but discuss the fun side and enjoy spending time doing other things.
Right. Has anybody got any sort of last comments they want to make before we leave?
Only that I'm looking forward to coming out from underneath my little shell and sharing things with you guys and working forwards to make everything successful in Kingston. It sounds like there's an awful lot going on. We've heard from Ed Davey and various other people and Martha and everybody today. And I think we're very lucky to be in Kingston. There's lots of things going on. We've got Unilever coming to Kingston, and I just pray and hope that, you know, we can go forwards and build a sustainable and very, very fruitful Kingston upon Thames, with everybody in the chamber driving things forward and helping each other.
Yeah. Fantastic way of ending it here. Brilliant.
Thanks, everyone. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Very nice to meet you all, and I really do hope we meet in better circumstances. And Frankie, I'm desperate to try your beer at some stage.
Yeah, me too. We'll be over soon.
We'll all be there.
Okay, you're welcome.
Brilliant.
When we're open, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so all the best. I will find a way of leaving this now. Take care.
You have to press the button, the little end button that looks like a telephone, apparently.
The telephone, I've got it. Okay, over and out.
Bye.